Sister Gopi's arrival, and she is there. So all of you are aware of Sister Gopi very well. She is actually doesn't need introduction, but of late I have started doing introductions of sisters and brothers in the form of a poem. So I'll just introduce again Sister Gopi in this way. So hope that's okay, sister. So a few lines about her. Actually, she's been with Brahma Kumari since many, many years, 35, 40 years, or even more than that. And all of us know her as a face of the IYF, the International Youth Forum. So Sister Gopi strikes this beautiful balance of West and East, and she gives this beautiful knowledge to us as a feast. So balance of West and East, knowledge to us as a feast. And by inculcating that in our life, that's what we can do the least, right? Otherwise, it's like baking a bread without yeast. So we go on further. Since this talk is all about discipline today, so a few lines about discipline, and also Sister Gopi, both in that same 6 lines further. So today, on having discipline in our life, she'll give us this beautiful insight so that our every action is filled with full of might, insight and might. That helps us to battle our weaknesses with a victorious fight and help carrying on our daily tasks with love and light. So then we can fight Maya being light. And finally, our life will then become perfectly all right when we start disciplining the self, wearing the seat belt tight. So once we wear the seat belt tight, in the sense we are fully disciplined, then it will be everything all right with us. So I'll just stop sharing, and immensely thankful to Sister Gopi. She's now in UK, extremely busy with many programs, but she never says no. I have seen that. So thank you so much, Sister Gopi, for joining us and giving us your precious 1 hour. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Manoj Bhai. I think you have another budding career as a poet. Very, very sweet introduction. And namaste, good afternoon or good evening, I think, to everybody. Because if it's 4 o'clock here, it's quite late there, I think.
8:30, yeah.
It's 8:30, right, okay. So the subject of discipline, it's a bit like the G word. It carries a lot of baggage. When you think of discipline, and I was just making a mental note of all the different connotations. In Hindi, it's a very beautiful word, anushasana. And this word actually means in Hindi, in its roots in Sanskrit, is the development of your faculties by instruction or exercise. So it's a training of your faculties. That's what, it actually means. And yet the connotation in English is very, very varied, because within the ecclesiastical domain, the religious domain, the word discipline has carried punishment, order and control, penal actions, something that you're forced to do, maybe against your will, following essential duties and roles, and maybe they're not self-chosen. And I think over the ages, like the G word, the God word, discipline has been used as an external locus of control to bring control and order. And so, you discipline children. This one needs to be disciplined. He's done something wrong. Its connection has always been in relation to something negative most of the time. And so, when people begin a spiritual journey, and then, of course, on any journey, if you want to perfect and master anything, you adopt it as a discipline first. And when it comes to that point, then people start to shake, because all kinds of memories and beliefs linked to discipline as a suppressive energy gets triggered. So then you get all kinds of expressions where souls go, well, I can't do this. I need to do this my way. It's okay. Or, I can take it at my pace, because they feel to be disciplined is something that's imposed from outside. And yet when you take up the heart of the energy of being disciplined, it's like Tai Chi. It's like doing Tai Chi. It's wonderful. Imagine when you do Tai Chi, you're exercising the highest grace of self-control. And that's what being disciplined is. It's when I'm developing all my faculties to the highest order. And that's when discipline becomes an art form. It's not a compulsion. It's not something I have to do, but it's actually a graceful dance I have to practice every day until I perfect it. Be it a dance of a movement, a movement of order in my mind, the way I speak, what I do, how I interact. Everything is instructed and exercised. So I'm not speaking or thinking, if you like, in hurry, worry, curry, random, which is what happens. Oh, I didn't mean to say that, and the words just came out of my mouth. Oh, I didn't mean that, but it just happened. Somebody who has really taken it on as an art form will never lose self-control. So discipline is the path that we take on our spiritual journey to develop two particular powers. One is controlling power, and the other is ruling power. In fact, when we have knowledge and we receive knowledge and understanding, we know a lot. And many times people are fooled into, I suppose, kind of mistaken into this idea that if I know everything, then I'll be able to change. Change will happen. And actually, the process of change happens with realization of knowledge. Once the realization and the light bulb goes on, the second step from there is the step of checking, accountability. Well, before that step is the act of actually creating a discipline from knowledge. From all the information I know, what are the arts that I'm going to adopt in my thinking, in my speaking, in my doing? From what I realize, what am I going to practice? This is where we take on board the Hindi word niyam. We have knowledge, but from this vast plethora of knowledge, what have I realized? And from what I've realized, what are my life niyams, my principles? And these are the things that are very dear to the core of who I am. So these life principles that I have chosen and created, they're my own personal formulas. And our sweet daddy had many of them. Why she lived to 104 is because she has what I would say niyam ka bal. And she was an extremely disciplined character. It was her discipline that made her into a giant spiritual effort maker, that helped her develop a mental capacity, a spiritual capacity, an emotional capacity, and a physical capacity that was nearly unlimited. I mean, it was quite phenomenal. Her accomplishments at a physical level, her mental stability, her state of stability and cleanliness in her feelings and her spiritual prowess. And all of that was cultivated because she had niyams that she followed. And she stayed true to those niyams in her life. And the basis of her remaining disciplined was that she was clear about the niyams she had in her life. So what niyams do is they create some form of, I'll call it restraint. Restraint from your old nature, restraint from your old patterns, your characters, your way of being. And to a certain extent, it can feel uncomfortable in the beginning. You know, it's a little bit like when we start to ride a bike. We're not used to using certain muscles in a particular way. So when you start to ride a bike, all those muscles get activated and your bums ache for 2 or 3 days. But what does that mean? Just because your legs hurt and your bum ache and your calf muscles hurt, it doesn't mean you're going to stop learning how to ride a bike. You're going to keep going until you get it. And then the pain stops as your muscles get used to it. So it's the same way when we actually start to implement our niyams in our life. We uphold our niyams and it creates a certain restraint of mind, a restraint of speech, a restraint in action. Because the transformation process has both in it. It is a creative process, but it's also a restraining process. And that restraining that happens in the initial stages does create resistance in our whole system. And so at that stage in our system, it's like, oh, forget it, I can't do this. This is too much for me. Yeah. So, but actually, those are make or break moments. And those are the times when we just have to keep going. If I've set this as a life principle, let me master it. So, you know, when I look back and I think of my time with Daddy, you know, one of her biggest niyams was Kam Kharch Bala Nashin. And it was incredible how she applied it at very different levels. You know, we would be having meetings. So she would be meeting people. Incredibly generous hearted. You know, she would speak to the person. Then towards the end of the meeting, she'd say to them, how many people are there in your family? You know, she had the generosity of inquiring about their family, where they stayed, what they did. And then she would ask us to go and get a gift and then exactly the amount of pieces of toli that person had family members for. So she was extremely generous, but also economical at the same time. You know, if somebody only had 5 family members, she didn't give them a box of 20 pieces of toli. It was like she understood the value of the resources that Baba had, and she knew how to apply them generously and economically at the same time, as per the need. So I find that niyam, for example, Kam Kharch Bala Nashin, enabled her to remain economical in what she did. When I think of, you know, how she always say Sachai Safai Sadgi, that was another one of her niyams. You know, she adhered to it like anything. Honesty was her best friend. And so that niyam meant, you know, and she was saying to us, it meant that in the UK, she never had a personal car of her own. She says, no, there's plenty of people around. They'll be happy to give me company, take me places. Why should I get something personal for myself? I want to stay simple. I'm not here to create a household. So her simplicity meant that she could serve in a very unlimited way, but she stayed true to that niyam. And, you know, she would tell us in my funeral, I don't want a penny to be expended on my funeral. 6,000 rupees was the expense of her funeral. Some sandalwood garlands had to be bought. So, you know, when somebody has married their principles, their niyam, you know, the karmic return of that is when you need it the most. Brahma, drama, and prakriti help you to fulfill those niyams. And so I saw at the end with Dadi, for example, you know, drama and prakriti helped her to fulfill her niyam of Sachai Safai Sadgi, Kam Kharch Bala Nashin, right till her deathbed. even when she'd passed away. I mean, if that's not a successful life, what is? Your principles live beyond you, and it's your principles that create a memorial in the hearts of the people that you're with. Your principles don't just create a memorial in hearts, but they create karmic footprints that shape destiny. And that's your contribution to the world. So I think when we look at the subject of Anushasana and discipline, we can't separate it from the subject of principles and niyam. And it's very important that we do investigate our niyams. Because, you know, it's such a beautiful process. When you have certain niyams, you won't let your mind or intellect go in a direction. I remember, for example, we would have to, you know, on the field of service, things happen. They always happen. It's how it is. And in the early days, we would, of course, come to report to Daddy and explain. And we would explain the situation from our perspective. And we would share our thoughts, and she'd be listening very carefully to how we're thinking. Then she'd say to us halfway, don't think like that. Don't see it like that. Yeah. So one of the niyams I saw operating in service with Daddy was she would be looking to see how she can cooperate with a soul. With what quality she can cooperate with a soul, no matter where they were at, no matter what their swabhav was, because that's the bottom line. If somebody's playing up, somebody's sanskars are coming, they need sahyog of some kind. And this was Baba's blessing for Daddy, actually. You know, she had the ability to give sahyog, be sahyogi with her virtues. And so her whole lens, because that was her niyam, so to speak, that's what she would do on the field of service, she would always look at a situation through that lens, irrespective of whether people did what she said or not, irrespective of whether people listened to her or not. Her job, her niyam, was to give the cooperation of her virtues. And so what she did as the basis of that is she refused to go down certain thinking tracks, because it's so easy to let yourself feel betrayed in a relationship. Somebody hasn't done what you expected them to do. You then think about it and you feel betrayed, but you created that feeling of betrayal because of your thought patterns. They played their part perfectly well. What did I do with what they did? So what's my niyam? So I can accuse them of not being trustworthy, but in that moment, did I uphold the niyam of trust? What is the niyam of trust? No matter what you are, there's something in there. There's some gun, some speciality, some power, something worthy to be appreciated and recognized. So every situation in our life, especially where we've buckled under pressure, or perhaps we've given in to weak thoughts about certain people, certain situations, we've entertained reactions, all of that is an indication that I haven't established a niyam with which I can restrain my mental faculty or my intellectual faculty or my speech faculty. So we are tested in life on our niyams. And those principles help us to train our faculties. And I think one of the other beautiful partners of discipline, because discipline is the process of training and instructing your faculties to move in a particular direction, right? To move in a particular order, to move with a particular energy. So the other partner of discipline is consistency. Training is training because it's a long-term thing. It's not a one-off act. Consistency is the best friend of discipline. because consistency eventually leads us to mastery. It doesn't matter what you do, just be consistent in it. If you have a niyam, for example, that one of my life niyams, and I enjoy this, is I love this idea of, and it's something that I was inspired by when Daddy had shared about Mama many, many years ago. And she had asked Mama, how have you become the way you've become? And Mama said, it's because I know how to make my mind move peacefully. And I enjoy myself very much when I make my mind move in peace. And I loved that idea, that throughout the day, that's a niyam I'm going to take up for myself, that no matter what happens, I'm going to make my mind, I'm going to run it peacefully, because that's really important for me. So what does that mean in practice as a discipline? It means when the traffic control comes on, for example, I am going to, in that moment, apply that niyam in practice and bring my mind to a place of peace, love my mind peacefully in that moment, make it bodiless. So if I do that 5 times a day, every day, for 1 week, for 1 year, it's those moments and drops of consistency that actually tighten the reins of a master and tighten the rails of self-control. It doesn't happen as like a end result, like, for example, oh yeah, we'll see at the end, I'll be able to make the effort at the end. No, it doesn't work like that. Muscles require training over a period of time to adjust to a certain pattern. Neurons take time to adjust, to fire in a certain way. So it's a consistency we create until our consistent acts actually add up so much that they topple our consciousness into that reality of our principle. So we are no longer having to be disciplined in following the principle. We start living the principle. And that, for me, is just the point of enlightenment, of grace, where life starts to take on an effortless energy. Things start to synchronicity. You don't labor anymore in that process. Love, and I would say self-love, is the fuel of staying consistent in your discipline, whatever your discipline is, spiritual, mental, physical. Self-love is very, very important. And this is where, in all my years of meditation, I see how God's power can help to melt a part of myself that's angry, a part of myself that's perhaps disappointed, a part of myself that's perhaps hopeless or disheartened. Because we all carry an old skin. We may have ideals and hopes, and we may be living a life up to our ideals, but we all have baggage. And how we reconcile with that baggage and how we gracefully work with it is what keeps love and compassion alive. Now, I remember many, many years ago, I was sitting in the meditation room with Baba, and the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes were beautiful, very, very deep peace. And then suddenly I felt a wave of discomfort come through me. And it's almost like, when you start receiving power from God, it's like the herbalist medicine begins to erupt all the illnesses. So a wave of discomfort passed. And, instead of kind of feeling uncomfortable about the discomfort, I just sat there and I started taking Baba's drishti. And I think that is something we don't use enough in our Brahmin life. You know, Baba's drishti carries a lot. It carries a look, a tone, a message. Eyes speak 1,000 words. And as I held Baba's gaze, I started to see this part of me that was uncomfortable and discomfort. I started to see it as a separate person. It just started to happen automatically. It was like an angry person going, "You're not giving me enough attention." And as I was looking into Baba's eyes and holding Baba's gaze, it was almost like I could just keep this thing and have a conversation with it whilst I was still looking at Baba. And it was wonderful because I wasn't consumed by the discomfort or the anger, but I was having this wonderful conversation with it. Why are you angry? I'm angry because of this. Why is this happening? And slowly, 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 the conversation got to a point where that part of myself just surrendered to the love that was coming from Baba's eyes. And suddenly it vanished. There was just no discomfort anymore. And it was like Baba's drishti and Baba's presence acted like blotting paper. It just, but it surfaced it. Baba's ever pure. God is such a pure energy that it is going to reveal not only the purest part of me, but the most impure part of me too. And my grace is to accept both parts of my cycle, the very best and the very worst. If God has accepted the totality of my cycle, my Rajo Tamo Sato, then who am I not to accept it? But the process of self-acceptance and self-love and working with Baba, and it simplifies things so much. That's what I love about it. Irrespective of the cause, irrespective of the reason or the story, it doesn't matter anymore. You don't have to feel hijacked by your past. You don't have to feel condemned by your past. Because right now is what matters. How you actually reconcile with it now, that feeling is what matters the most. And this is where Baba's help is just magical. I don't think I could have transformed to the extent I have without Baba. Without Baba's presence, of course, knowledge is one thing, but just Baba's drishti and Baba's presence. So I feel that this quality of love, it's so important to nurture and sustain this. Because love, I've noticed, brings another friend on board that is a companion of discipline. And that is accuracy. Yeah. I'm not talking about perfectionism. That's obsessiveness. That's a very different energy. But accuracy, this is what I noticed in Daddy. She was accurate in everything. You know, you would think, why does she have to bother about these small things? Sometimes I think she'd come into a room and, you know, you must have experienced that. I can see Dr. Mehta. You will have noticed when she comes in a room, she adjusts the chair. She'll adjust where you're sitting. She'll make you sit closer to her. You know, some of you will have experienced that in being in meetings with her. Or she'll say, you know, you sit here a little bit. Now you change this, you change that. Sometimes you can think, why is she going to these lengths so much? But her love, it was her love that was making sure that she could create the best possible accurate setting where she could be at her best, and it would allow Baba to do his best also at that point. She was basically preparing the environment for God to do his work. That's what accuracy is. So when you're being accurate, you're not being accurate for yourself. That's perfectionism. When you're trying to control the outcome of something, when love is the root of accuracy, it comes and it sits in the wisdom that I want to help bring order to something to allow God's energy to flow through without hindrance. It's so beautiful. And then it's like an art. It's such a beautiful thing to do wherever you do. Accuracy in your environment. Because when there is accuracy and cleanliness in your environment, it allows space for Baba to be present, for Baba to do his work. And then it leaves you in a very carefree state. When you're not accurate, it means the root of it means you've operated from a place of wastage. You know, waste is probably one of the primary diluters of love. And if love has become diluted, our accuracy levels drop, our consistency levels drop, and staying true to our discipline gets compromised. Because you know what happens? We just get tired. We are on a path of complete and utter metamorphosis. I'm not even going to use the word transformation. It's complete metamorphosis, which means right to the very core of who we are, nothing old will remain. Nothing. Now, on that journey of metamorphosis, there are incredible energies at play in resistance, in harmony. There's a shedding of something old. There's a consistent adopting of something new. It will release energy. It will take energy. So you will sometimes feel tired if you're not taking enough love from Baba, and if you're not exercising your own self-love. I.e., you might be in denial about certain feelings you're having inside yourself. You know, both daddies, and I think this was the key to their discipline, their accuracy, their consistency, because Dadiji would always say Madhuban is a hall of mirrors. Daddy Janki would call Global House Sheesh Mahal, you know, the palace of mirrors. Somehow, for these daddies, there was no other. They were so steeped in their experience with Baba. Baba was a constant companion, and the realization of knowledge was so clear here that every feeling, every thought was their creation. They could own it. They could complete the cycle. No matter what happened in the drama outside, there was never another. So if something happened, they had a reaction, I would watch Daddy. She would go into silence. She never blamed. She never criticized. She never complained. She never created another, be it another story about the story that's happening. Never. Because at some very deep level, when the soul self realizes every experience I am having right now is mine. It's my creation. Why am I doing this to myself? I have to answer this question. And this is what the daddies took full ownership of. So they never created ghosts in their minds. They never had stories to sustain. They were so simple. And it was so easy to put a full stop. And right now, I think what interferes in staying true to our discipline, whichever field it may be in, is that we tend to let the past interfere. We're still sustaining an old story. You're sustaining an old story. And you're sustaining an old story because it's harboring a hurt that you're not prepared to let go of. And until that's met, that's reconciled, I did that to myself, and you're liberated from it. Being disciplined will be like, being stretched by a rubber band, but then that part of you that's hurt snaps you back to itself again. So it's hard to move forward because you feel like you're like a rubber band. You're kind of stretching forward, and then suddenly the part of you that's not reconciled, whoop, it snapped back again. So I feel that this area of being true to oneself is very important in sustaining any discipline. And when I say being true to oneself, I'd like to invite you to think about how you relate to everything in your life. I'm not talking about relationships, other people, or things. How am I relating to God? How am I relating to myself? How am I relating to my mind? How am I relating to my body? How am I relating to the objects I have in my environment? How am I relating to people in my life? All of that, I have to be true in how I relate to everything in my life. For me, that's the ultimate act of discipline, of enabling discipline to bring me to the highest order, is to flush out all the avenues of how I relate to everything in my life so I can be true in every area of my life. Because, we think we can hide certain parts of our lives. Like you can go and meet somebody for the first time. They don't know what's happening at home. But actually, your vibration can never hide, because everything you carry is always translated as a vibration. How you relate to everything in your life is imprinted in you as a vibration. And so what you eventually carry in yourself, if the way in which you relate to everything in your life is mixed. So say in some parts of your life, the way you relate to people is one way, one person, the way you relate to another person, another way, the way you relate to your body is different. Your chit will start to feel split. And you carry around with you almost like a split personality because of the different ways you relate to everything. And this was Daddy's integrity. I found that quite amazing. Whether it was somebody who wanted to see her just for one small thing for 1 minute, I would see her give full attention to that soul for 1 minute. For 1 minute, that soul was her world. And it was incredible what Baba would do through her in that 1 minute. I've seen several times somebody's coming along wanting to push Daddy onto a program and someone's waiting to meet her. And so the assistant is going, no, you go later. Daddy will go, stop. I want to meet him. Come here. She took the signals in the order they came. She didn't leapfrog signals like we do now. Because, drama is incredible. Drama has a game plan, and every signal and every moment that comes to you, whatever expression comes, it has a particular order. And so if I honor that order and I relate to it and being true in that moment with what comes in front of me, then I have nothing whatsoever. I will never carry a burden of anything in my life. And that's why Daddy could move in such an unlimited way, because she cleared her path, because she was true in every moment with whatever drama presented in front of her. So for me, watching her like that was like watching a master at work. I mean, that for me is an ultimate discipline, the attentiveness to each moment. And that came from her niyam that she'd made drama her best friend. She absolutely had full respect. She was completely faithful, not just to God, but to drama and the benefit that drama brought, to such an extent that she never questioned why something happened. it was incredible, absolutely incredible, and a real privilege and honor to have watched a disciplined master like that at work in such small ways. You know, her attentiveness when she would be eating her pills and her medicine. It was never medicine she was eating. You could feel she was putting nectar in her mouth if she was drinking it, or she was eating it. Just the love with which she applied herself to everything she did. Which is why every moment she would say to us, I know how to live life and I know how to die. So she had no fear of death because she applied herself to each moment of life. So those were my thoughts on the subject of discipline.
Thank you so much. Excellent. Always for taking us in the depth. Accuracy, consistency, and self-love. I've never thought of self-love being disciplined. That's perfect. Okay, so we have Dr. Ashok Mehta with us. Dr. Ashok Mehta, I just wanted to request you to propose the vote of thanks because you're one of the most senior here, and to Sister Gopi. Thank you.
Thank you, Gopi Ben, for
Shanti Ashok Bhai.
the Gopi Ben. You have revealed many beautiful things about Dadi today. But I think the whole yagya is so disciplined. Right from Baba down, if you see Jagdish Bhai, Dadi Prakash Mani, Dadi Gulzar, and Dadi Janki was, of course, the most visible, and most of us had experienced her love. But I liked your words also today, some of the words that you used, firing of the neurons. You talk like a physician, you know. And then you talk metamorphosis. That's again, you're more like a scientist. I think discipline is a way of life. All of us have lived that way. Maybe to some extent it differs, but Dadi's was something was full with love, discipline with love. I remember, I can take a minute or two to reveal to you. It was always an experience for me to meet Dadi. I met her first before I came in Gyan, you know. I had just been deputed by Dadi Prakash Mani to travel across the world to tell everything about the global hospital, and obviously for reasons that raising the funds, etc. So the first time I met Dadi, that time the Murli used to be in the school, and she would tell me someone to pick me up and take me at the right time. Then on, every time Dadi would tell that every time I flew to America, I must stay over for a day or two in London, meet her, and then only I can go. And I must tell you that every time I went to London, someone she sent was a person with whom I would get related over a period of time. Not only that, but she saw to it that every time she went to Oxford, she would take me once with her, either way, one way or the other, to go. And once it happened that I had planned to leave, and then she said, can you stay over for a day longer? And I said, Dadi, whatever you say, we will do. I thought that maybe she has something in her mind for me. And I stayed over, and you know what she did? She sent me to two people who were very ill. We were in Oxford, and she sent me to London back to see one of the BK students' father. He was not in a Gyan, but still. And he had advanced cancer. So I spent some time with him, an hour or so. I was so happy that Dadi takes so much of care of the family. And in the evening, I was sent to reading. There was a person who used to look after the Oxford campus, whether you want to call him a whatever watchman but he was an ardent student of Dadi. And his mother had a surgery and she had just come out of the hospital. And she sent me there. And that lady was all, I think she will never ever forget that Dadi takes care of the people around, though they were not in Yan, but because they were related to somebody. And this is what Dadi's love was. Dadi exhibited a love of the nth order for people whom, who were students of the Brahma Kumaris. But one thing is certain, that the entire organization of Baba, the Brahma Kumaris, is a classical example of self-discipline, discipline of the highest order. And all of us, we have benefited in our life. And those of the people who are new to this organization attending this program, I think they would benefit tremendously by following the path which we walked. Thank you very much once again, Gopi Ben, for giving us so much of an insight into Dadi's work and your association with her. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Ashok Bhai.
So thank you so much, Dr. Mehta. And we are very fortunate. Actually, this is the first time we are doing it in the Indian evenings, late evenings actually. So we are fortunate that we have Sister Claudia as well from Vancouver joining us. So Claudia, sister, can say a quick hello and you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, good morning, Gopi.
Hi, Claudia. Om Shanti.
Nice to be here with all of you, and especially with you, all your sharing about Dadi. So it's nice to hear that, and then also to have some hint how we should do it. So yes, discipline, without discipline, we cannot get anything in life. So it was very nice to, like Dr. Ashok Mehta talk about. Yes, we have to live a life of discipline for our own self first. Because if we live our own self, then we can do outside as well. So thank you for being with us and talk with so nice subject. Thank you.
You know, as Ashok Bhai was speaking, this is the last day of Didi Manmohini's month, Didi's month. And I remember in 1982, I think it was either December, October, December, I don't remember the month, but Didi was meeting a group of double foreigners. And in that group, the subject was love, increasing the capacity to give and receive love. Because really, that's one of our challenges as human beings on this journey. You know, we've seen the examples of how incredibly loving the Dadis were. So somebody asked Didi the question quite innocently, Didi, how do I make others love me more? And then at the same time, how do I increase my love for others more? And Didi's reply was so simple, but so profound. She said, love God more. And so if we can make that a discipline in our life, a discipline of loving God more, I think in that we enhance all our faculties. We heighten our faculties to become sensitive to the real needs of souls. And that's how, you know, that whole, as our faculties heighten, we can tune in to people's needs, and automatically we can become facilitators of the resources to help meet their needs. So in Dadi's case, for example, you know, Ashok Bhai was present at the right time. And because of her heightened awareness, as a result of her love for Baba, she was able to facilitate a process of care where people could feel that love. And so I like to think, and it's very good you shared those stories, Ashok Bhai, because it really helps me to now think about love as a discipline, loving God as a discipline as well. So thank you very much.
Perfect. I'm enjoying this very informal talk, but time is going. I'll just do a few announcements and then we'll go in the meditation full 10 minutes with you, Sister Gopi. I'll just quickly share the screen. I'm not able to take your questions, but there were not many questions actually. So continuing as even Sister Gopi pointed out, this is 31st July, the last month. We want to deepen this experience of discipline. So as all of you can see, once a month, the first Sunday usually, and it's just coming tomorrow. So we are doing this silence retreat on discipline. We are just actually a retreat of silence is supposed to be for more than 2, 3 or 4 hours, but we'll do it for 2 hours. We play Babdada's drills and music and try to really soothe in the atmosphere and go in the depth of that particular value. Continuing with the series further, we have the episode 19 on tolerance by our very respected Dr. Nirmala Didi. For people who are new, she is basically the joint chief administrator and based at Gyan Sarovar Academy, which we have in Mount Abu. And she's also, interestingly, the director of Australasia Centers. She has served a lot in the Australia and that part of the world. And she's really, her name is Nirmala and she's really very Nirmal, very, very innocent and very childlike and very soft. I'm sure when you listen to her, you'll experience all that. And again, we have with us Sister Gopi. We are very, very fortunate. She's again giving us time. So she'll be covering in the workshop. She'll be with us again on tolerance. So we look forward to another talk with you, Sister. And a few announcements about Vihasa. This is values workshop, what we are doing. This is not Vihasa, but in front of you, this is the Vihasa, which has those typical 8 modules which we have. So the Mumbai team, Sister Kosha and all others will be there for the self-care Sundays next Sunday. And a quick look at this calendar of events, which since last 2 months we have been taking it out so that you all know what we are doing when. Just a quick look of it. And since this is August month, it's like Raksha Bandhan all over, and even Dadi Prakash Mani's Remembrance Day. So we are planning this small special Yog Bhatti of Raksha Bandhan. It will be with Sister Sudesh and Sister Aruna. So without taking much of your time, I'll just now stop sharing and over to Sister Gopi for the meditation on discipline.
Okay. So wherever you're sitting, do sit up straight, the spine upright. And let's guide ourselves to God. So let's start with training our body and minds to relax and become peaceful. So first of all, start with your breathing. Breathe in, take a couple of deep breaths in, and as you release on the out breath, allow any tension in your body to be released. Breathe in through your nose and slowly out through your mouth. And as you do so, feel every cell in your body relax into this present moment now. And then let your mind unfurl, a bit like an open hand, allowing thoughts to pass through, but not holding on to any of them. Bring your mind into a relaxed and open state. And as mind and body ease up, you start to become aware of the incredible Shakti, the living energy that lies below the surface of the consciousness. That Chaitanya Shakti, the soul. A living, pulsating being of light and might. And in this relaxed state, you let yourself drop into this awareness of yourself as a Chaitanya Shakti, a living spirit. Beyond all the labels, the roles, the surface noise, you drop below the waves into the deepest and purest part of you. A living being of light. Of might. Of bliss. Of joy. And of deep, deep silence. Just let yourself fall into yourself. The physical eyes may be looking outwards, but inside, you rest in the feeling of yourself as the soul. And you train your mental faculty to stay there by creating the thought, I am a being of peace. मैं एक शांत चित्त आत्मा हूँ. I am a being of peace. And in that space of silence, you become aware of the presence of another vast energy. The parent of the soul. The soul's peace is recharged when it swims in the ocean of peace, the supreme. the soul's light is recharged, when it connects with the Supreme Soul, the Supreme Light. And I allow my attention to extend to the presence of the Supreme. And I allow the love to flow between us. Right now, in this moment now, whatever I am, however I am deeply loved by God. I love God, and God loves me. And I slowly start to feel my heart opening. And that love extends out into the world. And I rest in this state of being a lighthouse of pure love. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
So thank you so much for the beautiful experience in meditation. And Sister Anu, you have any quick announcements or?
All is good. We have announced everything. Thank you so much, Gopi sister. Maybe we should take a picture for this moment. Everybody, please open up your video. With Sister Gopi, we can take a snapshot. Okay. Just, I'll give 2-3 seconds more. Please open up your videos. Okay, ready? 1, 2, and 3. I got the picture, and it was really very, very empowering. Thank you so much, Gopi.
Thank you.
And loving God, and God loves me. We'll all take it home with us.
Om Shanti. Good night.